For more insight on the Blues, we bring in now Blues analyst Joey Vitale. Joey, thank you so much for joining us. The Blues in Anaheim tonight, but prior to today's game, there's been just a lot going on surrounding the Blues on and off the ice. I think we were all pretty much hoping that we would be over this, but on Friday, the Blues adding Torrey Krug and Nico Mikkola to their COVID-19 protocols list, making it now 4 Blues players currently on that list, and also their 6 to go on there this season. Their depth has already been challenged now, Joey, but then you put this big strain on the roster. How are the Blues really handling this right now?
Yeah, Brooke, good evening. It's one of those crazy things where I think a lot of teams are kind of going through this. You lost your captain for the last 2 weeks. Will we see him in the lineup again here tonight? Hopefully. You're looking at players going down because of COVID. And not only that, but injuries. Brayden Schenn, obviously, with an upper body injury, won't be in the lineup tonight as well. So the depth is definitely being tested. I guess the bright news is, the good news, at least from what I'm gathering from the team here, they're kind of looking at this as a positive. Hopefully, they'll get their positive COVID cases out of the way early in the season. And that way, maybe towards March and April, when playoffs are around the corner, it's not that big of an issue.
Right now, currently going into today's game, they are down to just 20 healthy players. And right now, there's really no cap space for them to bring up certain players. I know a lot of people were hoping Scott Perunovich would be called up, but of course, Doug Armstrong, the Blues general manager, saying that they couldn't because of these cap restrictions. Do you think that the NHL and their Players Association should do some type of cap relief for these situations? Do you think that would be a good idea?
It's definitely a thought, and I think a lot of players are kind of surprised. I was certainly surprised by this, as you looked at how the season started. For players to go on COVID protocol, you would think that there would be cap relief for these teams, but there just isn't. So you look at Torrey Krug, for example. We lose him in the game here tonight, and probably for the next 2 or 3. His salary does not come off the cap. You see his goal right there. How valuable has he been to this team right now? So talk about a player that you just don't want to see out of the lineup. It's number 47. But he comes out of the lineup. He's back home now. But the Blues just don't get rid of that money during the meantime. They have to stick with it. So that's a bit of the struggle. I'm not sure if the Players Association, the league, where the negotiations came to this. I'm not sure if it's because possibly they were aiming for a full vaccination setup, where that's where they were aiming at to try to get to this. That was the push for these teams to try to say, hey, if you get fully vaccinated, maybe this is one of those kind of intriguing things that'll get teams to try to do that. And of course, you look around the league, and a lot of teams still aren't fully vaccinated. So I don't know. It's one of those weird things. I think if it continues, I think the Players Association and league is going to have to take a look at this, because pretty soon, like the Blues, for example, you're 3-4 more players away from being in a lot of trouble where you're going to be playing shorthanded. So maybe it's going to take a team like that to have to play shorthanded and only have 14, 15 guys on the roster before the league steps in and says, hey, we need to rethink this whole thing moving forward.
And Joey, Jim Thomas of the Post-Dispatch actually reached out to Bill Daly, who is the NHL Deputy Commissioner, last night about this very issue that the Blues are going through right now, if there will be any emergency cap relief. And he said as of right now, they're not looking into it. They see this as almost teams going through short-term injuries. Do you think it's fair to compare this situation to injuries with players?
I completely disagree with it, because, players who are injured, they can't play the game. So it's different. I mean, you talk to some of these players. I've talked personally to some of these players who've been on COVID protocol. They feel great. I mean, one, I think Brandon Saad said he felt like he had a cold. Torrey Krug just played a back-to-back game, in LA, and then of course San Jose, and he logged some heavy minutes, I think, when he had COVID. So that's where it's a little different for me, where I think these players who are vaccinated and are asymptomatic, who are testing positive, if they weren't being tested, Brooke, as you know, they wouldn't even think anything of it. So I think that you can't really make the comparison that COVID and the short-term injury are different things. So that's where I think you kind of have to draw the line.
And outside of the COVID cases, we already kind of spoke about this, is Brayden Schenn. The Blues just dealt another big blow there. He's dealing with an upper body injury. And, Joey, I know that it's never a great sign when a player has to be sent back to St. Louis for further evaluation. So what is the latest that you're hearing about him? And what will the Blues do about this moving forward? Because this isn't a COVID case. This is injury related.
Yeah, when you send someone back, that typically says it's not a day-to-day thing. And I think he's being listed as day-to-day right now. I expect that to change probably week to week, given the circumstance of the upper body injury. Just that's my hunch, seeing as he had to leave. this is something I think that Brayden Schenn's been dealing with for a little while now. I don't know the extent of the injury or what part of the body it is, but I think it's something that maybe happened 2 or 3 or even 4 games ago, an injury that he's been playing through. And I can tell, in some of the games prior over the last 2 to 3, he looks like he's compensating for something when he's skating still. But again, Brayden Schenn is just one of the toughest warrior-like players I think this team has. I mean, if there's one player I think that truly just embodies Blues hockey, I really do believe it is Brayden Schenn over anyone else, because yes, Ryan O'Reilly will bring that element. David Perron, same thing. Justin Falk, but Brayden Schenn adds this like physical dimension, which is so just typical for Blues hockey. The kind of that lunch pail, just all-out warrior style of hockey. So this is a big hit for the St. Louis Blues. This is a big injury. I would look at it like if Ryan O'Reilly and Jordan Binnington are at the very top, Colton Parayko, top 3, maybe you don't want to see get hurt. I think Brayden Schenn's just that next layer. So this is going to be a situation where the depth is going to continue to be tested.
That one little shred of good news for them is that they're getting their captain back. He was out for 4 games with coronavirus. O'Reilly never really missing a game as a Blue up until this point. And you could tell that the Blues really missed him because they went 2-1-1 during his absence. I know that there were other factors in there, but what does it mean getting back Ryan the Factor O'Reilly?
Well, it's going to be huge. I mean, you see him in practice right here. I mean, he was as pumped as ever, big smiles. You mentioned, Brooke, before the last 4 games, I never missed a game in a Blues uniform. Everyone knew what his impact is on this team. Everyone knew when we found out the news a couple weeks ago how that would hurt the team. I don't think anyone fully understood to what level he would be missed and what level he brings to the game when he's in the lineup. Yes, the Blues went 2-1-1. I think the Blues could have easily have gone 0-4. I mean, very closely. I mean, they win that Chicago game by 1. LA Kings game, they lose in a shootout, right? I mean, there was some very, very tight games. And I think that this Ryan O'Reilly situation, it's something where he just makes every player around him so much better. David Perron would be the first one to tell you that he's been a little off his game over the last 4 games. A player that just goes up and down the ice, 200 feet, wins faceoffs, starts games, ends games, out on the penalty kill, a big bumper player right there for the power play. And not to mention, Brooke, just, you've been around the room too. Just a wonderful presence, a wonderful human being that just really pulls everyone into the fight. That's just something I always thought about Ryan O'Reilly. If I'm on the bench with him, if I was playing alongside of him, I would look right at him. I would just say, hey, this is someone that really wants to drag me into the fight. And of course, he's got the nature about him and the character about him that everyone wants to follow suit with him. So it's been tough missing the captain over the last 4, but hopefully in the night versus Anaheim Ducks, it'll be a good change of pace and a good change of scenery for this team.
We'll have more from Joey coming up after the break. But first, as we mentioned, this past week, Joel Hofer became the Blues' first goalie in 19 years to earn the win in his NHL debut. Let's take a look behind the scenes of Hofer's first NHL win and being presented the game puck.
Very often. Right off. There you go, baby. There you go. Good job, Hopper. Hey, just a couple things. That's a hell of a team win, you guys. Killing penalties and just battling all game was fucking awesome to see. That's a good fucking team win tonight. You guys competed your up. Congrats, Hoff. Great fucking job. Enjoy you guys' day off tomorrow.
Posey, great game. Jimmy, way to go to the net, buddy. Gives the big man here for his first win.
Keep it to the goalie, so that's good. Back and forth. Good speech, Hope.